Story 1. Is the $200 coming from a magical genie, the state lottery, or publisher's clearinghouse? Story 2. 500,000 at 8% annually grows to 1.165 million over 11 years. 200 per day at 8% annually grows to 1.198 million over 11 years, and you will continue to earn 200 per day. Story 3. 500,000 today. I have stage 4 cancer and it's not looking good. I would love to buy my husband and dog a small home before I go. The piece of providing something like that for them would be incredible. Edited to add. Thank you so much for these kind responses. Funny how touching a bunch of love from internet strangers can be. Story 4. The answer depends on your age. If you are over 50, take 500,000. If you are under 50, take 200 per day. Story 5. $200 every day will make you $500,000 in less than 7 years. Story 6. Objectively, $200 per day is worth more for the overwhelming majority of people. Assuming a 7% return and a lifespan of at least 35 years, $200 per day has a present value of about $1 million. In other words, $200 per day would be worth double $500,000 received immediately. The two amounts are equal at roughly 9 years. Story 7. I would take the $500,000. It would allow me to pay off all my debt. Credit cards, car loan, mortgage, and so on, and let me live my life again. People say that in 7 years I would have more than $500,000, but I need the money now. I could buy a second home and rent my current one. I have always dreamed of renting places for very low amounts because current rent payments go towards someone else's mortgage. If you keep renting, you may never have enough to buy your own place. Receiving the money now would solve more for me in the long run than waiting 7 or more years for it to build up. Story 8. I would rather have $500,000 right now because I could use it to buy a house and pursue an education. The daily income would even out after 7 years, but those are 7 years I could fully take advantage of with that kind of boost, and I am not getting my youth back. Story 9. I would 100% choose $200 per day rather than a lump sum of $500,000. There is no requirement to save the money. I would use it to pay my mortgage and deposit my paychecks. Although $500,000 is a large amount, it will not last forever. Story 10. If you invested $200 per day over a couple of decades, you would come out ahead compared with leaving $500,000 untouched for the same period. At retirement, you would have a larger nest egg and continue to receive $200 per day for the rest of your life. The only way taking the $500,000 would be the better option is if you use it to start a business now and grow it into a huge success, or if you get extremely lucky backing the next NVIDIA. Story 11. That is $1,400 a week forever, which is $72,800 a year for sitting on your ass doing nothing. Assuming that is tax-free, that is retirement income, man. Story 12. I would rather save $200 every day. Having a large sum at once would be overwhelming, so I would have the $200 automatically deposited into my savings. Once my savings are large enough, I would use them to pay off my debt. Story 13. Fully investing all the money at 7% yearly growth, it will take roughly 11 years for $200 per day to exceed $500,000. There is no objectively right or wrong answer, but $200 per day appears financially superior if you expect to live more than 11 years. Story 14. I would rather have $200 a day. That is $73,000 a year. In less than 7 years, I will have surpassed $500,000. Story 15. Right now, Publishers Clearinghouse has filed for bankruptcy. You do not have the money until you actually receive it. Story 16. With $500,000 right now, I can immediately pay off my mortgage and start earning interest. Thank you. Story 17. $200 a day is the easy answer if you are relatively young and healthy. The mental safety net of receiving $100,000 in net take-home pay without ever working again would be enormous. You would be virtually set for life, which would allow you to take much greater risks. $500,000 is great, but most people end up ruining it, as often happens with lottery winners. Story 18. There is a math solution to this question. A payment received every year in perpetuity is called an annuity. How much is an annuity of $200 a day worth? You might think it is worth infinity, but that is wrong. Because of interest, money today is worth more than the same amount a year from now. Today you can invest it and earn 1 year of interest. Ask yourself, at today's interest rate, say 5%, how much money do I need to invest now to get $200 a day in interest payments? That is the value of the annuity. At 5%, the annuity is worth $1.46 million, which is much more than $500,000. In fact, interest rates would have to be 14.6% for $500,000 to equal the annuity. Story 19. I love seeing so many people who think they can turn $500,000 into a much better return than $200 a day. You have to be far from reality to believe you can beat 99% of investors worldwide. Story 20. Because I do not trust them, I would want $500,000 now. Who knows? In 7 years, they will probably say, okay, not anymore. Story 21. $200 per day. If you invest $500,000 and follow a 4% withdrawal rate, you are getting $20,000 per year, or about $55 per day. Story 22. At $70,000 per year, in the 8th year you exceed $500,000. So it comes down to how old you are. Story 23. $200 a day would definitely ease the burden, as I am currently out of work. I live relatively thriftily and spend nowhere near that much even on my wildest days. Story 24. $200 a day equals $73,000 a year. So in 6 years you would hit $500,000. I would take $200 a day for the next 6 years and retire at 65. During that time, I would continue working until I paid off my bills and invest the rest as a generational wealth fund for my children. Story 25. You could easily build an investment portfolio that generates $200 a day while retaining a principal of $500,000. Story 26. I have $500,000 now because I am 63. I could pay off my 91-year-old father's house and get him better care and food. Story 27. $500,000 now, mainly because I'm a middle-aged man with an autoimmune disease and stage 4 chronic kidney disease. I do not have much time to wait. That is why I'm splurging on luxury watches and vacations. Story 28. $200 times 365 equals $73,000. A $73,000 per year withdrawal using a 4% safe withdrawal rate is equivalent to a $1,825,000 investment portfolio. 4% of $500,000 equals $20,000 per year. Story 29. Take the $200 per day, an annual pension of $73,000, effective immediately for the rest of your life, is far more valuable than a lump sum. Unless your life expectancy is less than 7 years, or you urgently need a lump sum for life-saving expenses, the per-day option is the smarter choice. Story 30. $500,000 is about 2,500 days worth of $200 payments, or about 7 years. So, in a sense, the $200 payments are the better choice if you expect to live longer than 7 years, which I do. But if the payment amount is fixed, inflation will gradually reduce the value of those $200 payments. Meanwhile, the $500,000 could be used immediately to buy a house or to invest in something that will appreciate in value. All of this depends on my discount rate, but I think I would choose the $500,000. Story 31. Good question. $500,000 today is worth more than tomorrow. If you have $200 a day, inflation will erode the value over time. I was thinking about being forever self-sufficient, but if I reach retirement age in 32 years, how much will $200 be worth then? However, $200 a day would be a great safety net for unemployment. $500,000 now if it has to be United States dollars. $200 a day in euros, approximately 172.8 euros. Story 32. I have $500,000 right now so I can invest it and lose it all within a year. Story 33. Honestly, I am aware that £200 a day is £73,000 a year, so you would reach £500,000 in just under 7 years. A £500,000 lump sum would allow me to buy a house outright, whereas otherwise I would need a mortgage for the rest of my life. Story 34. $500,000 up front. I could die tomorrow with only $200. I will do the same with the lottery if I win. Story 35. I am still young. I would take that $200 and learn to budget and make it grow. Thank you. Story 36. 200 every day. If I live to 85, that is nearly 4 million. It is a no-brainer. Story 37. Brother, I have bills to pay and a job that doesn't pay enough. Being able to pay off my debt and still afford groceries from an extra $1,400 per week in stimulus would improve my life vastly more than putting $500,000 into the market and not touching it for a decade. Story 38. If you invested $500,000 in the Standard & Poor's 500 index 10 years ago, it would be worth about $1.8 million today, an average annual return of 14.6%. If you invested the same amount 20 years ago, it would be about $3.8 million, an average annual return of 10.8%. If you contributed $6,000 per month for those same periods, the totals would be about $1.5 million after 10 years and $4.7 million after 20 years. These figures are based on historical returns and do not predict future results. Story 39. If you have a plan for what to do with $500,000, take it. If not, opt for $200 per day because capital can be used to generate more income. Story 40. Personally, I take the $200 per day for life, assuming that's $200 after taxes. It would be like having a second job for no additional work and would allow me to continue a normal life without stress about when I decide to retire. A $500,000 upfront payment would be nice, but at 34, I think the smarter play is the long game. Story 41. I will take $500,000 because the United States dollar loses value every year. I will invest in assets that appreciate and live off the returns. Story 42. $200 per day is the smarter, no-stress option. That is $73,000 a year, guaranteed forever. A lump sum is attractive, but a steady income stream for life is better. Imagine the freedom from daily money worries. Story 43. $200 every day, no-brainer. I'd rather have a guaranteed $50 every day than $500,000. However, the $50 would need to be inflation-adjusted. Story 44. What is with all these dumb answers about investment and interest? The obvious choice is to take $200 a day. You would not need to work another day in your life if you did. If you take $500,000, you cannot live off the daily interest and you can easily spend it and then you are screwed because you have no ongoing income if you retire early. Why do you care about how much it will accumulate in 15 years? That does not change your life today. Choose the option that benefits you today. Go be free. Story 45. I take the daily money even if it were $50 or $100 a day. That would be funny. $50 a day would let me retire in my area. Story 46. $200 per day, simply to prevent my wife from spending $500,000 over a single weekend. Story 47. $200 every day. But from the moment I was born, it has been $6,000 a month. I can make lifelong investments that will yield more than $500,000 in a single moment. Story 48. $200 a day is $73,000 a year. I am planning to live significantly longer than 6.5 years, so I will take the steady income stream. Story 49. My life expectancy from now on is probably not long. I could live long enough that it would make more sense to take the daily payments, but I most likely will not. I would take the money now. Story 50. $200 per day will easily pay for a mortgage and a loan for a new car. It will also add up to much more than $500,000 in the long run. I would accept $200 per day. Story 51. I'll take 200, Alex. I'm a goddamn addict and I need to titrate my dosage. Story 52. I will take $72,800 per year, and my life is instantly 500 times better. Story 53. I am a simple person and I live in a relatively low cost of living area. I could live on $200 per day, especially if that amount grows with inflation. Story 54. I feel that $200 a day is a smarter choice, but $500,000 is life-changing and would help many of us get out of debt. It would be a difficult choice. Story 55, $200 a day. Even with debt, you can still pay that off over time. Story 56, $200 a day. The break-even point is approximately 2,500 days, about 6 years and 11 months. Based on my expected living expenses, I would come out ahead with $200 a day. If I deposited that amount into a stock fund every 3 days and it returned 8% a year, the break-even would be about 5.5 years. If some or all of the $500,000 is invested, the break-even on $200 a day would take much longer. Story 57. I will take $200 per day because I can do the math and do not expect to die in the next decade. Story 58. $200 every day easily. That is $73,000 a year for existing expenses. I would quit my job and could easily live off that. I am living off less right now, and I actually have to go to work. Story 59. $200 per day for 250 days is $500,000. I already live on less than $200 per day. My whole life would change drastically. Story 60. I would probably take $500,000 today to pay off my mortgage and then find a job I would be happier doing, even if it pays less. Story 61. This is an easy math problem using the present value function. The answer largely depends on how long you expect to live. Here is the math. $200 per day. Present value 0. Payment, $200 per day. Number of periods, 10,800 days, converted to days assuming 30 years of time. Interest rate per period, 5% divided by 10,800. Future value, $4,949,538. $500,000 lump sum. Present value, negative $500,000. Payment 0. Number of periods, 10,800 days to compare on the same basis. Interest rate per period, 5% divided by 10,800. Future value, $2,195,047. The $200 per day is clearly much better. The break-even point in the analysis is about 8.5 years, essentially the time when both future values are the same. If you think you will live less than 8.5 years, take the $500,000 lump sum. If you expect to live longer than 8.5 years, take the $200 per day. Story 62. Definitely take the lump sum now. I can put that money toward our mortgage or invest it. You also never know when you might pass away, or when the source of the $200 per day could go bankrupt, as happened recently with Publishers Clearinghouse. I will feel much more comfortable having control of the money immediately. Story 63. Take $200 for sure if you are younger. It depends. If $500,000 is just a small addition to the assets you already have, the larger lump sum may not be as attractive. But if you were in your 30s and someone offered you $200 a day for life, you would be foolish not to take it and bank or invest it. Story 64. $500,000 invested might earn even more than $200 per day. Story 65. I had Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer calculate the break-even point, assuming you invest the money either all at once or as $200 per day. The break-even point is about 8 years. After 9 years, investing $200 per day becomes the better choice by a large margin. If you are going to spend the money when you receive it, it is a lifestyle choice. Having $500,000 to put toward a home or a business would be wonderful, and having $200 per day for enjoyable activities would also be great. Story 66. Assuming you fully invest each amount in the Standard & Poor's 500 and let them grow for 20 years, $200 per day becomes $4,580,000, while $500,000 becomes $3,600,000. I would choose $200 per day. The break-even point is 11 years. Story 67. Assuming I live longer than 7 years, hell yes. Sign me up for $200 a day. Story 68. $500,000 would allow me to buy a house outright and only pay property taxes. It would be immediately life-changing and more valuable to me right now. Story 69. $200 a day, please. I have 3 children, and this would change their lives for as long as I live. Story 70. In just 7 years, I would have made that $500,000. So at my age, I will take $200 a day. Story 71, $500,000. No one knows how much longer we will live. At least if we die, some family members will be taken care of. Story 72. I am planning to live at least 7 more years, so $200 sounds great. Story 73. $1,400 per week would be ridiculously helpful right now. I will take the daily payout. Story 74. I hope to be alive for at least 7 more years. I will take $200 a day. Story 75. With a 5% return, $500,000 grows to $1,693,177.47 in 25 years. Investing $200 per day at the same return yields $3,475,210.06. This may not be exact because the calculator I used only allowed a weekly contribution of $1,400 rather than a daily contribution of $200. It still illustrates that, even with compound interest, investing $200 per day rapidly outpaces the lump sum. Story 76. Assuming I live more than 6 years, $200 per day without a doubt. Story 77. $200 per day in a 31-day calendar month equals $6,200. In a 30-day month, that is $6,000. In February, it is $5,600, or $5,800 in a leap year. This shows I would have enough to pay my $2,600 per month mortgage, groceries, and insurance without working. I would have money left over for other bills or for investing in additional income sources. I would take $200 per day in a heartbeat. Story 78. $200 every day for the rest of my life. Stress is over. I am working on open source projects and writing stories. Story 79. I would get $200 a day. That is much more than my current salary in Mexico, so I would use it at first for small upgrades in quality of life, then invest it. I bet my cats would love the treats I would bring them. Story 80. If you will be around in 7 years and are not going to waste $200, take the $200. The math checks out. Also, invest it if you do not plan to spend it on specific days. Investing can help offset inflation. Story 81. I will take the $500,000 because I want to be debt-free right now. Story 82. $500,000. I could invest that and start something for my family. $200 per day is somewhat better, but I could die tomorrow. Story 83. I'll take the big coin now, please. Thank you. $200 a day would not change things for me unless I saved it for a long time. I could become debt-free, buy a new car, invest in a small business, and build a diversified portfolio with a few $100,000 before I could accumulate enough $100 bills. Edit after reading comments. I am over 50, so that factors into my decision. Story 84. You can earn $30,000 per year just from the interest on $500,000 in a high-yield money market account. You might die before you get anywhere near $500,000 if you take $200 per day. Almost always take the lump sum. Story 85. Besides owing a loan shark or already being about 80 years old, I cannot think of a single situation where taking $500,000 now is a better option. That money does not go far enough. Before anyone suggests investing, no safe investment of $500,000 will ever yield $73,000 per year for life. $73,000 per year forever for doing nothing would be appealing, but you could pick up almost any relaxed part-time job and earn $100,000 per year easily. Story 86. It would only take 7 years to catch up to $500,000, so $200 per day. Easy. Story 87. $200 every day. I am still young enough. If I were much older, then I would probably take $500,000. Story 88. It would only take 6.8 years for $200 per day to reach $500,000. The world is bleak right now, but not bleak enough that I expect to be dead in less than that, so I am taking the $200 per day. I like not having to worry about it. $500,000 is not enough to set you up for life, so you still have to monitor what you have left. With $200 per day, you receive the same amount each day, so the main concern is saving enough for rent, which is not difficult unless you have a particularly lavish lifestyle. Story 89. Logically, I should take $200 per day because it will take under 7 years to reach $500,000. So as long as I live longer than that, though nothing is guaranteed, I would come out ahead. However, my financial situation makes me prefer taking the money now to pay bills, buy a new car, and fix up the house a little. Story 90. $200 every day is much more practical. You could do almost anything you want every weekend or every month. $500,000 every 7 years. Story 91. $200 per day is more money than $500,000, no matter how you slice it. Most people who win relatively small lottery sums like $500,000 or $2 million often spend it all and return to square one. $200 per day cannot be spent all at once and will prevent poverty. It can provide financial security for life as long as you avoid debt, which is not difficult when you receive $200 per day and still have the option to work. Story 92. I'll take $200 a day. At that rate, $500,000 would be gone in a year. That daily amount provides a comfortable life. Story 93. I would take $200 every day. I know that I do not know enough about investing to be smart about it. The value of the $200 may go down over time, but I would still have it coming in. With the way my luck works out, I would lose $500,000 relatively quickly. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.